Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Words of Heart. In today's episode, we have the privilege of speaking with the host of the Borealis Experience podcast, Aurora Eggert. Thank you for joining me today, Aurora.
Thank you so much, Dion, for having me here. And yeah, I'm very happy to be spending some time with you today.
Me too. So, Aurora, if you could tell my audience a bit about your podcast, how it got started. It's a really interesting name, the Borealis Experience, because I want to say Borealis picks off the Northern Lights in a way. So
Yeah.
please divulge how you came to be with your podcast.
Yes, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about this on your podcast. So my name is Aurora, and I moved to Canada 7 years ago. I was born and raised in Germany. That's why my little accent here when I speak English. And here in Canada, a couple months into living here, I was blessed to experience the Northern Lights, the borealis, Aurora borealis. And it really touched me deeply and made me aware of how detached I was living from nature. I was living in a big city in Munich. I was very busy with my job, very busy trying to find a mate, a partner that is good for me. Yet I was always kind of ending up in weird situations. So after a huge breakup, I decided to join my grandmother here in Canada, and living out here on a farm, very close to nature. Suddenly, all the stuff that I was trying to run away from, all the pain, came up. It kind of like came up out of nowhere, because back then in Germany, I was very successfully distracting myself with exercising, with going out dancing, with distracting myself with my friends. I never really faced my problems. And now being out here all by myself, out in nature, it really came hard down onto me. And I noticed that I was still very resentful, fearful, and anxious when it came to relationship, when it came to men and in general. I was raped when I was 21, and I never really dealt with that. I just kept going about my life, not noticing that internally I was still carrying this wound and living and viewing life like more negative than positive, and always being surprised about weird outcomes and weird situations with people, because I was not aware of my energy and my words I was putting out there into the world. And as I wanted to have a nurturing, healthy relationship again, I kept finding myself in those weird situations where I was with a man, but for some reason we couldn't connect. And I always blamed the other person. And now finding myself all by myself here, I realized I was the problem. I was not dealing with my stuff from the past and only running away from it. So I slowly started asking questions and started to really feel that pain again, and to make sense of what happened back then, and to make peace with what had happened. Um, I wanted to commit myself to a peaceful life, a life where I live in harmony with men and women. My relationship with my brothers got really difficult because, of course, they're men as well, and on some level I felt threatened by them. So our relationship like grew apart more and more too, and it started to really make me feel lonely. And then I started a little TV show project in 2018 where I felt like I can only make peace with men if I learn to understand why they become aggressive, why they shut down, why they go out and cheat on you. So I had the idea to invite guys onto my show to share their story when a breakup happens. What happens with a guy? Like, how does he process that? When he becomes aggressive, why is it? Why is he aware that a woman can be scared for life when a man is being aggressive? Are men even aware of this? So I had these great interviews where men would open up about their pain and their experiences. And I was able to ask my question and make peace with men and learn to trust men again. And then I decided to move away from that little town where I was living, and I kind of dropped that TV show. I was reaching a plateau and thought, oh, maybe it's not really important work anyways. But then 2 years later, so end of 2020 now, I felt that itch again. I felt like, no, I need to keep doing this, because women who were listening to my show were also able to make peace with men and make sense of some toxic behavior that we sometimes exhibit without even noticing, but wondering, hey, why is this guy breaking up with me? Like, why is this all happening? And sometimes it's really because we're not aware of what we are putting out there. So now I started this podcast back in January and also added meditation, because I wanted to really share everything that had helped me on my journey to help other people. And meditation is a thing where, again, you sit there with yourself and all the stuff that you're trying to run away from is coming up. And it is not only coming up when you're sitting there in silence with yourself, it is constantly there. And if you're not aware of it, it will suck energy, life energy, literally, from your system. So what meditation does is it makes you aware of what is going on in your mind and helps you to make sense of certain behaviors. And then once you observe your thoughts and your feelings that come up, you can kind of learn to channel them and not to restrict them or judge them, but make sense of them. And then in whatever direction you want to go, you focus your mind onto the goal that you want to approach. So in my podcast, I offer meditation and inspirational talk and everything that has helped me on my journey. And I invite, I call them warriors, heart-driven leaders onto my show to share their story of depression, suicidal thoughts, overcoming addiction, for other men to learn and see that opening up and being vulnerable is so precious and is not weak at all. And for women to learn and trust men again, to see that, hey, they go through stuff and sometimes they don't know how to express it in a way that we want to understand it. And we have to find common ground again. Another motivation for my podcast is that I feel there's a lot of distrust when it comes to men and women, especially in heterosexual relationships. And if we can start and talk like the raw conversations again, then we can learn to trust each other again. And I would say that's the second or maybe third mission of my podcast.
Awesome. And I truly admire you for using your platform in such a positive and inspiring way, and giving people a chance to share their stories. I obviously emphasize that on my podcast on a daily basis. So, and I also tune into your podcast too, and it's so inspiring and uplifting. And I do believe we should like take a pause and silence the voices and the chaos of life. I feel this season, though really unfortunate. My heart goes out to everyone that's been affected by the pandemic, but it's also um, opened this window of availability that's not very common in our world, because our world has a tendency to be really crazy and busy. But because of this pandemic, we were able to be put on pause and do a lot of reflection and inner growth or outer growth. I don't think I've ever used outer growth, but I think you get the overall spectrum of what I'm stating. So I feel many people have resorted to reflection and meditation. And I love that your podcast embodies that so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And you're totally right. Like, if we stop seeing this whole COVID situation as a punishment and you know how all the conspiracy theories come out now, it's good to ask questions and to, know what's going on. But it's also very smart and intelligent, like you just said, to use this time to go within and to get to know yourself on a deeper level, because then in the future you can make wiser decisions that serve you better and serve your environment better. And it's only a plus if we learn to reconnect to ourselves. And like you say, the world is built so fast and it's all so crazy and stimulating that we're always trying to see value and approval in the outside and not listening to our heart anymore. And this is why I admire your show so much, because you have such a tender and kind voice that goes so deep. And your mission is so important because we have to reconnect to our heart. We cannot live from our mind anymore, because I think that's not what we're here for to do. We're here to express ourselves and to be authentic and to live from the heart.
Absolutely. Considering what you practice on your podcast, which I absolutely love, do you mind sharing some meditative tips or suggestions for myself and my audience before we wrap up here?
Yes, I would love to. So the meditations that I like to provide is meditations for people who don't want to meditate. Because that was the person I was for the longest time. I was too restless, too busy, and couldn't be bothered with meditation. So what I find most important is that you find a room that is quiet, and it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be like any kind of fancy. And you have to be comfortable sitting up straight. And if it's not what you want to do in the moment, you lay down on the ground. And why I don't like to lay down on the bed is because the mattress sometimes is too soft. And when you lay down on the floor, you can, when you breathe, literally feel your rib cage going up and down. And that already is extremely soothing, because your body instantly gives you signals to the brain that it is relaxing. So you can sit up straight. You can adjust your pelvis. So when you feel your sitting bones on the chair, you can kind of tip your pelvis towards the front. So as if you had a muesli bowl and you're kind of tipping it to the front, and automatically you will feel your spine getting straight and being aligned. And then you can roll your shoulders up and back. And very naturally, without big effort, you're sitting straight now. And your muscles around your neck can be relaxed because your spine is straight and your shoulders are a little bit maybe retracted so that your heart is opening up. And then if you feel comfortable, you can put your hands onto your thighs, and then you can close your eyes or keep them open, whatever feels right. And then it is really all about observing what is going on. Are you feeling comfortable in your body there? Are you thinking of your to-do list and all the things you need to do for the rest of the day? Are you thinking about a person or a situation with a person that you had recently? Your mind will always come up with something because that's its job. It is always trying to protect you and to prevent. And I use meditation to tell this little mind of mine, I call it monkey mind, to just take a seat in the back. And the thoughts that come up, you're just gonna let float by. So as if you're watching clouds in the sky, just floating by. You don't engage. You don't feel the need to judge. You just be there with yourself. And you can also use one of your strongest tools to relax yourself, your breath. Now, when it comes to your breath, it's really up to you. You want to breathe deeply into your belly. Most importantly, always inhaling through your nose and then exhaling through your mouth or through your nose. And there again, you can emphasize on deep breathing, or you can just notice, hey, is Dion breathing shallow, or is Dion breathing very deeply today? When we tend to breathe in a shallow way, we tend to be more stressed. Your mind comes up with more anxious, worrisome thoughts. And when you regulate your breath and make it maybe a little bit deeper than usual, your mind, your thoughts usually get more relaxed as well. So meditation can also teach you how to relax yourself beyond sitting there in meditation, but taking that into your day, especially when you face an irritating situation. Another thing that I love to do is to go into bird's perspective and to watch myself from above and to then observe my thoughts. Are my thoughts kind towards me, or am I very judgmental? And do I look down? Do I harshly judge myself for who I am, or do I live in acceptance with myself? And then you go from there, and as long as you want, it can be 2 minutes, it can be 10 minutes, but it is about tuning into what is going on in your mind, letting that go for a moment and tuning into your body and maybe observing yourself and realizing, how kind am I with myself? Am I living in acceptance with myself, or am I still at war with myself? And how can I embrace myself, accept myself more in the future?
Wow. I'm sorry. I listen to your podcast whenever you upload an episode, and I actually try to practice the meditative methods you just suggested. And I just tried practicing them just now, and It's like so cool and eye-opening to actually hear you say it on my podcast. And I just thank you so much for suggesting that with my audience and myself. It was so cool.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. And it is so wonderful to see you in person and to be here together with you. And yeah, it's precious quality time for me.
Awesome. So before we wrap things up, I do have my icebreaker question for you.
Yes.
If you could have any superpower that's not flying or teleporting or levitating your body, I say people can't pick flying, but they always go for teleporting. But then they can be like, oh, I can just levitate my body on over to Starbucks. That still
Yeah.
requires travel and floating. So
Yeah.
no, you can't be a bubble and bubble yourself over to Starbucks. So if
Yeah.
you could have any superpower that's not flying, teleporting, or levitating your body, what would it be? And feel free to have some fun with it. Many people get crazy with this question. So
I don't know if we can call it a superpower, but I have so much respect for animals. And if I could, I would love to be a lioness for a day or two and to just feel how it feels to be that crazy, like intelligent and beautiful creature out there in Africa one day.
that counts. Being an animal, that counts. To
All right.
That would be cool to be someone of such high confidence and stature. And so I get that. I believe that's what a lioness evokes, and
Yeah.
from my personal opinion.
Yeah. And to having to, care about your cubs, but then also go out for hunt with your co-lionesses and to have a team and wow, like it must be crazy adventurous.
Absolutely. So my power, it's not exactly a power yet, but I feel like it would be one in the future, would be the power for this podcast to be heard across other galaxies that have yet to be discovered. So they're not even on NASA's radar yet, and they're listening to this podcast right now.
Yes, that's so cool. That is very powerful.
Intergalactic broadcasting.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very cool idea.
Well, we can talk about galaxies and lioness and probably all types of symbiotic nature elements, but unfortunately, we're at the end of this awesome conversation, which I don't want it to end, but you have to get back to nature and I have to get back to my little hovel, which technically it's on a nature preserve, so I do experience nature, but either way, could you share where people can find your podcast and any social plugins before we wrap up here?
Sure, thank you so much. So the Borealis Experience podcast you can find on Apple and Spotify, on pretty much every channel that there is for podcasts out there. I'm very active on Facebook, so if you want to watch a couple inspirational videos, Aurora Eggert is my name then. And I started a profile on Patreon now where you can book one-on-one meditations with me. Depending what you need, you tell me in which state you are, and you will get a personal like motivational boost and meditation with me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me today, or this was an awesome conversation, and I definitely feel like my anxiety has left the building a bit from talking to you today.
Oh, this is very precious. And yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. And it was lovely to meet you in person.
Awesome. To all my listeners, stay healthy, stay safe. Um, tune into your body, however you choose to do that. Meditation, poetry, a simple walk around the park. Meditation of all kinds does have the power to alleviate all types of anxiety, and I, for one, definitely would take advantage of that. So stay healthy, stay safe, and until next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.